Hello and welcome to hankgames without Hank. My name is John Green, manager of the AFC Wimbledon Wimbly Womblys, today taking on Southend United, the Shrimps. Look at it. They got shrimps on their badge. It's great. One thing that I've noticed about England is that there's a lot of pride among the shrimping communities. In a stunning turn of events, it's raining in England, and it's a night game, so I won't even be able to see to play. So usually I suck at this game, but I'm particularly bad when I can't see the pitch. I'm starting to think that maybe the reason we haven't scored in professional skill level is just because of the physical distance I am. If you can see the dangerous development at the top of the table there. You can see who's in second. I think it's just the distance, the physical distance I am from the television. I think that I need to move my chair closer. Ossiosi manager, that's such a middle-aged man, thank God I'm so old. Ossiosi manager is suffering some anxiety after 2 consecutive 0-0 draws. And speaking of anxiety, today's topic is about the sharing economy. It comes from Sam. I just feel like the sharing economy has brought a measure of like anxiety and generally like a lack of stability in the lives of young people. But that might just be because I'm so old. By the way, look at that DFTB and Nerdfightera crest. It looks awesome. Sam writes, I wonder if you could talk about how especially young people increasingly rent, not own, prefer to live in cities with public transportation and ride-sharing services, Airbnb, not hotels, crowdfunding, etc. Is this caused by wage stagnation and student debt, or primarily due to otherwise valid preferences? Are these disruptors providing products and services that genuinely make people better off, or are they an unfortunate necessary reaction to the inability of people to build individual wealth in a still slow economy? All right, so first off, I'm going to disagree with a ton of your premises. I feel like there is this, so I feel like there is this media narrative around around the sharing economy that has somewhat exaggerated the sharing economy. Now, I think like Uber is a big, real change in people's lives, and also that Airbnb is a somewhat smaller but still real change in people's lives. To me, Airbnb is like mostly just a better version of the website VRBO, which has existed for like 10 years and which I've used a lot, and along the way I've rented a lot of like people's houses or whatever, and I didn't feel like I was part of a revolution. So I think like there is an extent to which this is a media created narrative around some businesses that have become very successful businesses like Uber, Lyft, and Airbnb, rather than like a huge shift in like a huge lasting change. As evidence, I would point to the fact that like there really isn't that much of a difference between the percentage of young people who rented 10 years ago and the percentage of young people who rent now, or the age at which people buy houses, or any of that. Like none of that's actually changed. Also, like wage stagnation is real, but the biggest cause of wage stagnation is the increased cost of benefits to employers. Like the main reason for wage stagnation is that take-home pay hasn't changed, but the cost of delivering benefits has changed in the United States a lot. And it seems like maybe the way to fix that would be to have, I'm biased here as an employer, I know, but like to have employers be responsible for fewer of the of those things, and maybe have the government take on some of that responsibility, especially when it comes to healthcare costs. But yeah. Oh, God, I needed to lift it, I guess. I'm going to try practicing the LB button. I'm going to try practicing that this game, and we'll just see how it goes, because that could have gone better. It was this counterattacking football is what we want to play. This is who we are, and we're going to embrace it. But we do need to do a better job of, like, having some successful passes. So, I think that like I think there are changes, but I think they're fairly subtle, and I don't think that there's this like huge shift. I think young people have always liked living in cities with public transportation. I think when I was in my 20s, I don't want to be too biased here, but like when I was in my 20s, I did not own a car because I lived in Chicago or in New York, and I didn't need to own a car, and I liked living in those places largely because I didn't have to own a car, and there was big savings there. But also because, there were lots of other fun things to do. And, like, part of that would be defined now as the sharing economy. For instance, oh, wow. Thank God. That went wide. I never cooked my own food, really. But that wasn't because of a sharing economy, except I guess restaurants are part of the sharing economy, sort of. It was because I liked eating out at restaurants, and I didn't like cooking. And also I had crappy kitchens. I think, like, like anything, it's the story is always a little more complicated than the narrative around the story. I do think though that young people are certainly experiencing the generation of people who kind of came of age, whether it was post high school or post college, in the wake of the financial crisis, have had to deal with a level of economic instability that is almost unprecedented, and it will take a generation to get over that, I guess, or to process it. And we saw that with the Depression too in the 1930s. The generation of people who grew up in the Depression were just, oh, you've got to do better than that. We're just they saved differently, they spent differently, they behaved differently than people who grew up in times of relative economic prosperity, and that isn't that is a real difference. That's not bad, but it didn't work. I like the shooting outside the box, though. Why not take a risk? I mean, we're obviously experiencing some difficulties scoring, so why not try to shoot the ball? Ran right past the ball. It's no doubt. I'm sure this is frustrating viewing. I promise it's also frustrating creation. So I do think that it's going to affect people. I don't think the economy has grown especially slowly. I mean, so there's two economic stories post 2008. One is that the economy grew slowly, but I think the main reason the economy grew slowly was because of changing demographics. We've got a frustrated Wimbly Wombly on our hands. I think that the biggest thing that's going to inhibit growth in the United States over the next 20 years is the fact that we are going to have a rapidly aging population. We're going to have a declining workforce participation rate, more people outside the workforce because of retirement, and that's going to be that's going to inhibit economic growth. I think that I've done a fair amount of reading about this, and it seems to me that there just is not really a way, with the kind of demographics that the U.S. is up against, short of like massive immigration, which seems unlikely at the moment, that we can really be in a situation of like 4 or 5% economic growth. But I also don't think we need to. Like GDP, which is the overall size of the economy, that's like a somewhat invented idea. Like it's a real thing, but oh no! Oh, Shia LaBeouf with the save of the century. Shia LaBeouf really should have gotten an Oscar nomination for his work in American Honey. Look at this. He just made himself big, Meredith. Made himself big, and then he saved it with the beautiful inside of his right thigh. He's not a handsome man. Looks vaguely like a zombie, but I guess it is pretty wet. Oh, that's good. That's good. Counterattack! 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 No! Go, 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 go! Ah! Not fast enough. Just not fast enough, guys. Trying hard, but I don't necessarily. We're not the fastest, brightest, best team in League One. That's what it comes down to. Now we're playing like it right now. We're still in first place, but we're not as fast as we'd like to be. Anyway, so I think that's one story, is that like we're gonna have relatively slow economic growth over the next like 20 years probably. The other story is that the economic growth that we have had, because I don't think GDP is a particularly good measure of economic success. You see that with the economic growth that we have had. Like we've had fairly healthy economic growth since 2008, but the vast majority of the gains have gone to wealthy people, which is bad. I've made this point before, but I really believe it. It's not just bad ethically or morally. It's bad. Like it's bad because it means economies aren't doing what they need to do. Like the economy does not exist to grow or to get to its largest possible number. The economy exists to provide people with opportunities, and also when you have high economic inequality, you end up not having the innovations that you could have, or the opportunities that you could have, or the businesses that you might have, because you're saying to a pretty large percentage of the population, you're not going to have excellent educational opportunities, you're not going to have excellent like job training opportunities, you're not going to have all the opportunities that are there to start a business, and that inhibits growth, and I think is bad. It's got to be. Oh, wow, it had to be, but it wasn't. That's frustrating for all Wimbly Wombly fans everywhere. We're going to leave John Green in. We're going to take out Lyle Taylor since he had that horrible miss earlier. We're going to bring in Mr. Paulion. He's had some good luck with us. Then we're going to do this, and then we're going to put Camps in central midfield. It's a strategy. I don't know if it's a good strategy, but it's our strategy. We've got a weak central midfield. There's no doubt about it. By the way, Reece Oxford almost back from injury, so that'll be good. Ball John Green, he's still got like 2 months to go. It's 3 substitutions all at once, just like the pros do. And now, why did you, of all the places you could have put your ball, why did you put it there? Context is everything. So, I think that uneven economic growth is a real big problem. I don't think the actual pace of economic growth is a huge problem, because I think that you can have, with 2% growth, you can have an economy that where the vast majority of people have jobs, and most people, if asked if their job is a good job, will say yes. But if you have this really uneven distribution of economic growth, it doesn't really do much. Like, growth that isn't inclusive it doesn't really matter. Like, who cares if the number gets bigger if people's lives aren't getting better? And so I think that's my concern. And I do think that the sharing economy is partly a response to that. It's partly a response to the frustrations of that. And I also think the sharing economy is in a lot of ways reflective of that, because Uber drivers are not paid very well, whereas the CEO of Uber is super, super stupid rich. And so I think, like, when we talk about the sharing economy, we need to start talking about how can the sharing economy be more inclusive, so that a higher percentage of Uber's revenue goes to Uber's drivers. Or a higher percentage of Airbnb's revenue goes to people who are actually doing the hosting. That's good. Shoot! Oh, wow. It was from way outside. The golden child, Jake Reeves, just a kid with a dream. And that dream was to score the first goal for the Wimbly Womblys in professional skill level. But it appears that it will be a third consecutive 0-0 draw. Will we ever score? Has become a serious question for Wimbly Wombly supporters everywhere. Have the AFC Wimbledon Wimbly Womblys scored their last goal in their history? Or will we someday... Shia LaBeouf. Will we someday score again? Who knows? Not I. That's good, though. That's good. Maybe one more chance? One more cheese. Just not very fast. Oh, it's frustrating. And I believe that's going to be the end of the game. It is. Oh, a frustrated other John Green. He's not had much sleep, trying to deal with a husband with a broken foot and a 3-year-old child. It's not easy. There you go. Jake Reeves, tackled, full of disappointment. Let's make a more inclusive sharing economy. It starts with this video. Thanks for watching. Best wishes.